I have long outgrown the years of when I get inquiries about what sort of desirables that I would have for birthdays and holidays for about the last 20 years. In most cases, no matter what I wanted, I would wind up with something completely in opposition to it. So it wasn't a matter of what I wanted people were asking, it seems, but rather what they shouldn't give me. Once I caught on to this, I suppose I just stopped caring. For the last 15 plus years, I have been supplying these inquiries with no responses. Tomorrow is my 38th orbit around our yellow dwarf star. And I can say without a shred of doubt that it's not going to be one that I'm going to enjoy. There is going to be people who I don't even know that may make the proclamation that they, for whatever reason, want me to enjoy my birthday and will stop at nothing to ensure that I do. I don't understand it myself, but fine, I'll roll with it. So if you qualify as one of these individuals, the rest of this video is for you. There is in fact a way to ensure that I find solace in just my mere existence in this climate, let alone on my birthday. And it doesn't cost you any money, does not require you to orchestrate any events in my name or anything of that nature. This is a 100% free and easy to do solution. Want to know what it is? Listen closely, because this shit's about to get real. I want you to make a vow to protect my individual rights against any and all opposition that is sure to violate it. I want you to vow to protect my daughter's rights against any and all opposition that is sure to violate it. I could stop there, but let's get technical. First with me, it's my birthday after all. For me, my individual rights are threatened in two ways. The first as a non-believer, and the second as a potential retiree from the workforce. As a non-believer, religious zealots, primarily from the Christian sect, are constantly balloting amendments and authoring legislations in the name of dismissing the secular principles of the country I live in. In some areas, making it a crime to even be a non-believer and disguising that text under the First Amendment rights because it guarantees religious freedom. But see, the only problem with that interpretation is the First Amendment not only ensures religious freedom, but along with the Establishment Clause, the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom, the Treaty of Tripoli, along with the words from the Founding Fathers, also protects the freedom to have no religion at all for the individual. In 7 states to this day, it is specifically written in state constitutions that any citizen that identifies as not religious, and especially as not Christian, they are not allowed to serve the public. In the past, if anyone didn't fit this criteria and those states defied their state constitutions and ran for office anyways, their cases for candidacy would be taken to the Supreme Court, and they would always rule in their favor because, as stated by the First Amendment and the Establishment Clause, the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom, and the Treaty of Tripoli, as well as the Founding Fathers, this is a secular nation and not a theocracy. But of course, that creates a problem anyways, because Christians don't have to take themselves to the Supreme Court to serve the public and risk their candidacy over an otherwise non-legal issue for them, like everyone else does. But with the Supreme Court we have now, that may not be a reality much longer in those 7 states. So one thing you can do, absolutely free, is vow to protect secularism, which in turn protects me and really all of us, including you. You can't have freedom of religion without also having freedom from religion. It's impossible to have one without the other if you're talking legitimate freedom here. Secondly, my potential retirement from the workforce many years down the line. I can't work forever, just as much as I can't live forever. But I would prefer to live as long as I have worked, if you can believe that. The previous generation has gotten to experience it, but the tides are shifting on a yearly basis. Hundreds of bills are constantly pushed by Republicans specifically to either increase retirement age or to cut Social Security substantially to the point that retiring requires you to trade being paid the poverty wage you're already earning anyways to just being a slave. Most political issues are pretty diverse as far as what citizens agree and disagree on, but I think one of the top issues that keeps us all in the middle together is the subject of Social Security. As long as we're only specifying retirement, that is, because otherwise one side blindly throws out the narrative of how nobody wants to work, because that's what their theocratic dimwits tell them in order to get them to blindly agree to their potential slave labor when they reach age 70. An age that many can attest is hardly doable in the private sector, especially in manufacturing, which tends to be the most common private sector job. Just recently, the Supreme Court essentially made it a crime to be homeless. So let me ask you, if you blindly vote to eradicate Social Security, which in turn means you'll never retire, but you reach age 70 and can no longer use your hands or walk, and you're forced by nature to stop working, or hell, let's say you go blind or become paralyzed, whether you're 70 or 50, and you blindly follow the narrative you were fed on Social Security, guess what? Not only can you not retire, but you'll become a criminal once you run out of money to support yourself and have a roof over your head. I don't want that to happen to me personally. Crazy, I know. So if you want to make my birthday a good one, make a vow to stop following any and all narratives that oppose Social Security and retirement. Now there's a whole lot more to say on these two issues, but that should be enough to cover my half of this. But remember, I also mentioned my daughter in this equation. So let's get to her. For those who don't know, my daughter is a black 8-year-old girl with the mind of a 4-year-old at this point, officially diagnosed with autism and has a genetic disorder that depletes her of chromosomes. It's not like Down syndrome where she is given too many chromosomes. This is going the other way of the spectrum. Her education needs far exceed those of the average child. I'm actually amazed at how the public schooling system has been able to handle her to help her succeed. I promise you, it's a lot. Currently, depending on the outcome of the 2024 presidential election, there may be a risk that my daughter loses her schooling and thus her progress. Because one of the main goals of the Republican administration, if they get the White House, is to get rid of the Department of Education, which means taking the funds of public education away. That's already bad enough. But remember what you're left with when that happens. Christian schools. I don't think that's an accident, especially considering Oklahoma has been hard at work trying to force the 10 Commandments and the Bible into their public schools. My daughter doesn't have a mother. She will have no access to her family's history without public education and public libraries as a black citizen with autism. That's a fact. So the final vow I want you to make is to help protect my daughter's access to education through the Department of Education being retained, and access to her people's history through public libraries, and of course, access to her healthcare needs, which goes back to Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. That also ties into the first part. It's all connected. In fact, I can sum this all up in just one word. Vote. That's right. For my birthday, if you care so much about me enjoying my day, then the greatest gift you can give to me is to vote. Vote to protect my black autistic daughter's access to the world. Vote to protect my equal footing as a citizen. Vote to protect democracy from the heinous infiltration of theocracy that's been happening for decades. Vote for humanity, not for Christian enslavement. Humanity will be here longer than Christianity. It already has been. Vow to vote to keep humanity as the basis of the climate we inhabit and not ideas of tyrannical slavery. And whether you like it or not, there's only one party that has taken that vow of humanity first very seriously, and that is the Democratic Party. Now I get it that you may not like the candidates in spite of their position on these matters, but you need to remember, historically speaking, to my knowledge, all who have been elected into office have never quite had a 100% popularity rating. And ironically, the Republican opposition to the Democratic candidate has had the lowest approval rating for president in this previous term. So you can't tell me it makes sense to just throw your vote that way for that reason, especially after they verbally supported plans to decimate everything I've mentioned. What can I say? Sometimes basic humanity is all you need to see the forest for the trees. So that's my birthday wish. Vote.